amazing ride, so beautiful. Awesome to see a team work together. Really enjoyed it.
This is one of the nicest races ever. It is perfect organized and had a perfect group.
There's a lot of banter, a lot of fun, everyone has a good time, and then of course the support on the road. The nature of this is you have a lot of support, a lot of people cheering you on. It really is a fun day out.
Falling in love with these mountains. Teamwork vibe, awesome.
Oh, the beautiful scenes of the Pedal Power Association Double Century, which we saw highlights of last year's, and I'm sure for those of you that participated in the event last year, there'll be some very pleasant memories, although I imagine that most of you will remember some very painful moments, particularly up at those last 3 hills that everybody remembers on this very torturous route. And I'm very delighted to welcome the director of the Cape Town Cycle Trust, Dave Belair's, which is on the top left-hand side of our screen, and Mike Simpson, who is the race director for the Pedal Power Association Double Century. And we're going to be taking you through the race briefing, and it's very important that we do the race briefing this year more than probably any other year, because there are a lot of changes that we need to explain to the team captains and the teams themselves, a lot of different protocols that we haven't had before, of course, because of the COVID pandemic. So for those of you that are tuning in, and I see we've got almost 118 people already watching us live. If you're not able to watch, or you know somebody's not able to watch, make some notes, maybe direct them to the video. It'll be up live on the Double Century site over the next couple of days. They can watch the race briefing, and please make sure that if you are doing the race, you are very well aware of all the different bits and pieces you need to know about this year's race in particular. So I'm going to start off by asking Dave a very pertinent question, because when this pandemic hit us in March, just after the Cape Town Cycle Tour, who would have believed that the race was in doubt? Just tell us about the process of how we got to this place of finally having an event where 3 or 4 months ago it seemed highly unlikely.
Yeah, Mike, it's been a very interesting time. The team at the office have been simply unbelievable. So we went into lockdown, into a kind of total state of shock. We'd come straight out of Cycle Tour. There was hardly a chance to get debriefs done. And we suddenly found ourselves locked down and completely unsure of what was going to happen over the next year. I mean, there were people saying that we may be not looking at events until the end of 2021, which was quite scary. So what we did was we applied our minds and we sat down and we looked at scenarios. So it became a scenario planning exercise. Literally, the team played through a variety of different situations. Now, understanding we didn't know what the regulations were going to be. We didn't know how the regulations were going to change, and we didn't know what circumstances would be prevailing in South Africa by the time we got to December. So it was very much pie in the sky and having to dream up scenarios that we thought may be there. And as I say, the team they've been simply phenomenal. I mean, we've kept our heads down. We've had to remain focused. There's been a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of events cancelling, a lot of events going the complete virtual route. But there's something very special about the Double Century, the PPA Double Century, being able to get out into that countryside. And the closer we got to November, December, the more we realized that the opportunity to run a socially distanced event, an event with a difference this year, very clearly a difference, was a real opportunity. And we then started to engage with the Swellendam municipality, with South African police services, with the medical team, and make sure that we were able to put an event on which we believe is going to be extremely responsible. It is very much in the outdoors, and as you'll see with the changes that Mike and the team have instituted, that it's about creating an opportunity for people to participate, and at the same time minimizing the points of contact that we used to have in the old format, certainly for the 2020 event.
So Mark, I'm just going to ask you a question before we get into that race briefing. I mean, you've been very much at the helm of making the logistics work here. Tell us about how much sleep you've had over the last couple of weeks, because there are very special circumstances that you've had to deal with.
Yes, Mike, there's definitely a few more grey hairs than there were before the process started. But I must just say that we are hugely blessed and we are privileged to have the opportunity to do this again this year under such extreme circumstances. So yes, it's definitely been a challenge, but we've got a great team behind us and lots of individuals that are excited about putting this event on this year.
Well, you guys have certainly got a lot of experience in dealing with crisis management when it comes to putting on events, because you, Dave, I know you've got lots of experience in dealing with the windy cycle tours and all sorts of special things. So you're a specialist in this area. So, Dave, I'm going to hand over to you, and you can take everybody through the race briefing. And we encourage everybody that's watching, please, to take notes as we go along the way. You can ask questions in the below in our Facebook post, and we'll try and get to as many of those questions as we can towards the end of our broadcast. So, Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. You spoke about grey hairs, Mike Simpson. I'm actually only 22 years old. I think, first and foremost, before we get into the race briefing, it's important to point out to the teams and to participants and team captains that we're going into this event without a sponsor. So it's been extremely tough. We're running the event as close to the bone as we possibly can, and really it's about giving everybody the opportunity to get out and participate. So the bells and whistles that we've cut up, we've got some nice surprises. There's some wonderful surprises we're going to share with you tonight, things that have come up along the way. But the event doesn't have a headline partner, and therefore the Cape Town Cycle Tour Trust and Pedal Power Association have put their faith in the team to come up with an event that is going to run as lean as possible, and make sure that we try and get it to a break-even point, so that the trust isn't losing charitable surplus that needs to be going out to our charities at a later stage. Okay, so firstly, Mike, thanks very much for the intro. Welcome everybody, to those that are listening. It's going to be an exciting time. It's just over a week away, and we're really looking forward to welcoming you in Swellendam. So very quickly, I'm going to share my screen, and we will then take you through the presentation. If I can just get here. Now I understand what all these people go through when they share. Let's have a look. See, and straight into the first slide. It'll get there. I'm sure it will. Bear with me. Things are always going well until they're not going well. Here we are. Fantastic.
We're all good.
Right. So moving on to the first slide, I'm going to talk you through the arrangements, or the things we're going to be covering during this presentation. So it's the registration and race pack number collection, the race day, everything that pertains to the race. I'm not going to go through this line by line because we'll get to it. So it'll be the road closures, water points, team supports, etc. Logistics, we'll be dealing with the cutoffs, the road closures on the route, mechanical and medical support, and what you need to know and to do in a case of emergencies. We'll then get on to the finish and what you can expect and what you must do when you get to the finish. And that's also what you will do at the start. And then we'll go into some questions and answers if there are any. As Mike says, he'll be collating those and feeding them in through the process. Okay, now we come to probably the most important point. Understand from the team's perspective, there's been a lot of lobbying and a lot of work to make this happen. We understand that there are mixed feelings around the use of masks, but we're appealing to all participants. It's our first event. It's the first major event of this kind in the Western Cape that's taking place. And it's vitally important that every participant and every team driver that is supporting walks this journey with us and obeys the law. So this was a slide I saw on an event that was overseas. Please don't mess it up for us all. Whether you like it or not, it is the law. So when you're not riding, make sure your mask is on. And this is even when you're on the field, standing in the lineup, waiting to start. You may remove your mask at the start line about a minute before you start and pop it into your back pocket. But please, folks, we're going to be under the eye. SAPs are going to be monitoring this event in Swellendam, and we're asking each and every person to please assist us in making sure that this event is a responsible event and that we're able to host many more between now as we head into the new year. So I'm going to hand over to Mike, who will deal with the next slide, which is the registration, race pack and number collection.
Thanks, Dave. So your first day of number collection will be at the Cycle Tour Trust offices on Tuesday the 17th. That's next week from 2 to 7. The second day would be on Wednesday at Chris Williamson Cycles in Belleville. That's from 2 to 6. And then on Friday at the Swellendam Showgrounds from 12 to 8 o'clock. Then, of course, registration info-wise, only one representative is requested to present themselves at these registrations to pick up their numbers. So one representative per team to collect all of the numbers. Your, sorry, just seeing something here. Any changes that need to be done, substitutions, will be handled at these registrations. Please have your team members' details ready. And then your support vehicle information, the vehicle that's going to be used on the day, as well as the driver's details, will also be very important at this point. Thanks.
All right, so remember, no race registration on the morning for all of those that are arriving late. Please make sure that you have nominated somebody to collect your race pack. Right, so we told you all the bad news, that you wouldn't be getting anything. There'd be no gifts. There's no sponsor. We're going to keep it tight. We're going to keep it as lean as possible. Well, we're very excited to say the first thing that you will be receiving is some great product from NAMED. NAMED Sport have come on board, and they will be giving each rider a protein bar. There's a supplement that will go along with that, and that'll be collected with your race number at registration. So very pleased to have NAMED on board the cycle tour. Okay, I think we're going to move straight in, Mike, to the approximate race day times. Bear with me, the internet is not as fast as we'd like it to be, Mike, and I'm going to hand back to you.
Yes, so this slide speaks to the traveling time that we are suggesting you to just take into account. If you could just have a look at these details, depending on where you're coming from, just to make sure that you get into Swellendam on time. It's important to note that the Doe Pass via Swellendam will be closed from 5 o'clock, and Kochmanskloof Pass will be closed from 7 o'clock. So if you are coming from those directions, please take this into account. And then this also just indicates the details of all the road closures that we are looking at on the day, highlighting those 3 closures that would greatly affect you if you were coming from those directions to Swellendam.
Yeah, Mike's absolutely right. That points very clearly to people who may be staying in Barrydale, or who are staying in Robertson, or anywhere along the R62 between Robertson and Barrydale. If you're coming through the Trudeau Pass, please be aware of that road closure. Right, Mike, back to you on the race day new start procedure.
So yes, we do have a new start procedure. In the light of COVID, we have had to adapt the way we do things quite substantially. The new start protocol will be implemented this year just to encourage social distancing and make sure that all our riders are safe, and our staff and crew. You will be screened at the entrance before entering the venue on the Station Street gate, Stasiestraat. You will be temperature checked there before entering. The teams, we are asking you to please plan your trips and your arrival at the venue, not more than 20 minutes before your start time, but not less than 10 minutes. This is what you're going to be looking at in terms of layout. When you arrive, you'll be coming into the venue via Stasie Street gate, and there will be 4 chutes for you to then enter into. And this will be managed by crew on site, and signage will clearly show you where you need to go.
All right, I'll pick it up from here. So these are the important things you need to remember. Your mask. Please ensure that you have a mask with you, and that mask is worn from the time that you approach the screening section where your temperature will be taken and your race number scanned. You need to have a race tech timing chip on. That's vitally important, not only because we need to record your times, but it allows us to manage where the riders are on the route, and we're able to know where people may or may not have dropped out of the race. Your official race number, which you must wear. The number board that goes on the front of your handlebars. This is very important that this is affixed to your bike, because that is what we are going to scan when you arrive at the venue before through that the COVID protocol. And then obviously your helmet. Make sure your helmet's on. It's the old PPA adage: no helmet, no ride. Don't forget mechanical spares, tires, tubes. You are self-supported for the first half of the race. That is very important. So until the first 114 Ks approximately, until you get to Ashton, you'll be self-supporting. So tire levers, bombs, and anything you think you may need on that route. Mike, I'm going to hand back to you as we deal with the route itself.
Yes, if I may just add at that point about the venue, just so that riders know, they will have access to a bike mechanic on site, just in their approach to the shoots on the venue on the morning.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Mike. So what we're looking at here is the traditional route of the double century, starting in Swellendam through the Trudeau Pass to Barrydale, on to Montague, through the Kochmanskloof to Ashton, Ashton to Robertson. We'll take a left turn at Robertson, and then head down the Breda River Valley wine route through to Bonnievale, over the low-level bridge to Drew, and then for those of you that have ridden before, to the three sisters who are looking to seek revenge as you head towards the finish in Swellendam. Mike, I'm going to hand over to you to deal with some of the issues along the route.
Yeah, so the first challenge that we have is the roadworks between Montague and Ashton. This is nothing new to us. Kochmanskloof is still under construction, and there is still extensive road construction happening in Ashton. We still do have an acceptable route to ride on, and that neutral zone from Van Riebeek Road in Montague all the way through the pass into Ashton, want to get into the team support zone in Ashton, is a 30-minute allocated neutral zone, after which you have 15 minutes to refuel in the team support zone in Zandvliet Road. So we will once again be having our timing mats in place to make sure that people adhere to that neutral zone maximum speed of 30 kilometers per hour. And then also just to ensure sufficient mechanical spares, please make sure that you are mechanically self-sufficient, because this first part of the route is obviously supported, and then from Ashton you would need to be looking after yourselves in terms of your support vehicles following you. Please, in this section, due to the roadworks, do not cycle more than 2 abreast, and exercise extreme caution in this area. There will be additional marshals in place to make sure that we just assist you in getting through there safely. But otherwise, it all should be good on the day.
So, Mike, I'm just going to come in quickly. We didn't mention it at the start, but for those of you that are not aware, and you will see the seeding times for the PPA Double Century will be out and up on the website by this Friday. We are starting the fastest teams first and the slowest teams last. And that is giving us the effect of pulling the event out on the day so that it stretches rather than coming together. So we talk about 2 abreast through the Kochmanskloof and through into Ashton. That is very important. Now, we're not going to have that big coming together that we've generally had every year where all the teams are concertinaing when they get to Ashton. So please, the road through Ashton is not in great condition. It is open to public. It's not closed on the Ashton Main Road until you get into the support zone. So please behave responsibly and keep within that speed limit set. So Mike, still with you, we talk about the refreshments.
And then your stops along the way, we still have our traditional refreshment station stops. You may have heard along the way that those will just be water, but Dave will share some good news there. Along with the water at the refreshment stations, we will also be having some Coke. And those refreshment station points is just at the top of Trudeau Pass, at the Op de Trudeau Pakhuis, just off the road, and then Rooibrug and Drew. And then, of course, we have our team support zones at Ashton and Bonnievale. Please just note that the Ashton team support zone does have a 15-minute neutral time there for you, but your Bonnievale area does not, you don't have any time stopping there. So it's not a neutral zone in Bonnievale. Your time does not stop there.
So the reason we've done this, folks, is to minimize the amount of people that are gathering in the feed zones, in this team support zones during the event. So essentially, you've got 30 minutes to get through the neutral zone, which is the roadwork section, and then you have 15 minutes, which is effectively there to refuel, get some food into your back pockets, make sure your bottles are filled, pick up any spares you may need from your support vehicle, and then head out. The same goes for Bonnievale. That is the area that you'll be allowed to feed. Mike will talk to that a little bit later. We will both talk to it a little bit later. So I think I want to talk to the next slide, which is safety first. There are a couple of areas on the route that are absolutely key that you need to be aware of and you need to take cognizance of. So we talk about the big three descents. The one is down through the Trudeau Pass. Please, this is a fun ride. We're encouraging people to participate, to have fun this year. There's no prize giving. We're not going to be awarding a first, second, third trophy. There's no prize money. This is about people having the opportunity to get out and participate in an event. So the Trudeau Pass descent, the up the Trudeau Pass descent, which is can be a little hairy when the wind is blowing, so be careful of that. It's a long descent as you head down towards Montague. And then that little steep descent into Montague. Now remember, as you head into Montague, there's a sharp left turn into Van Riebeeck Road. So the marshals will be there. You'll see them. There'll be cones in the road. So just be aware of that and watch out for the side winds. The Drew Low Water Bridge, there's a left turn to take you across the Drew Low Water Bridge. It's a cement bridge. Please be careful of that. The roadworks through the Kochmans Kloof. You need to be cognizant of the fact that there are roadworks. We've been given special permission by the folk that are working there to actually use the pass. So we need to toe the line. Exiting Kochmans and heading into Ashton, as well as the left turn out of Ashton into the team support zone. Ashton is very busy on a Saturday morning. So you're going to go through the main road of Ashton. You're going to cross the, we'll call it the Sydney Harbour Bridge. There's that massive bridge that most people would have seen being built in Ashton. We'll be crossing that bridge. And shortly after that, there's a short rise. And then you turn left down into the team support zone. Once you cross the timing nets into the team support zone, you will have 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes, and that really is just to replenish the bottles. There's no picnic this time, no taking it easy and having a massage. Get your food and get going. Right, the standard rules of the road apply. We're on open roads for the most part of this event. Don't ride more than two abreast. Single file, please, on the N2. Vitally important. It's a very special concession we have to use the N2 for this event. We ask you please to stay to the left-hand side. It's just a short stretch until you're through Buffalo-Rivier and on the road to Seabrook. No crossing the white line. That's vitally important. We've had teams in the past overtaking way over the white line into the other side of the road. Not only is it extremely dangerous, it's not in keeping with the spirit of the event. Please obey all marshals on motorbikes on the route. Take note of caution signage and marshals indicating caution zones, and be aware of potholes, especially through the Montague and Ashton area. Okay, so also there's a complete list of rules that are on the website. If you are concerned at all, make yourself aware of those rules. You can get onto the website and you can have a look at them. Okay, Mike, this is the instructions.
Speaks to the instructions that for the team support vehicles and drivers. Your route to Ashton from Swellendam would be via the R60, turning left onto Ashton Main Road, crossing that big bridge again and into the zone where you will then await your team.
Okay, so it's the usual. The fastest teams will be positioned towards the exit and the slower teams at the very beginning, as pretty much as was last year. The area is demarcated. Mike, do you want to talk through the numbers? So this is team 103. Yeah. Mike, go for it.
So team 103, what we're doing in the team support zone in Ashton this year is we're dividing it into four zones of equal distance. So when you're looking at this race number, team number 103 will stop in the third zone in Ashton. Okay, so that's what this number shows us. And then all the numbers ending in 1 will go to zone 1. All the numbers ending in 2 will go to zone 2 and so forth. Okay, and this will also be very well marshaled and signposted on the day.
Okay, so to make that clear, the number you're looking at here, 103 is your team number. Number 10 is your rider number. So you are, this particular instance, this is the 10th rider of Team 103. And as Michael has pointed out, there'll be Team 101, 102, 103, 104, and then it'll go to Team 201, 202, 203, 204. Correct, Mike? And the 4 designates the quadrant that you will stop in going through the Ashton support zone.
That's correct, Dave. The next team after this will be 111, 112, 113, 114.
13. Correct. All right. So let's talk to the new rules around the team support. If my slides change, here we go. Only one team vehicle will be allowed to support the team this year. Now, the reason for that is that as you leave the Ashton team support zone, your team will slot in behind you. And the reason we're doing this is to allow for the team vehicle to support through to the finish. And because we've spread the event out, it means that it's going to be safer on the road. That having been said, the team drivers must exercise extreme caution when they're out on the road following their teams. That team vehicle is permitted to follow the team all the way through to the finish, just before the finish, where they turn up to the finish line in Swellendam. Mike will take you through that shortly. And they must follow at a safe distance and ensure that they don't end up getting between other teams and their own team. So it's about being sensible. We are cognizant of the fact that the teams would have spread out significantly on the route by the time they get to Ashton. So it should be safe. Teams need to be self-supportive. There'll be no feed station set up as we have in previous years. You'll be reliant on the food that you're picking up from your team vehicle at Ashton, and the team vehicle will then be feeding you again in what was the neutral zone in Bonnievale. An important fact here is that the team vehicle is not there to stop and feed you all the way back to Swellendam. It's there if there is an emergency that needs to be attended to or a serious mechanical with your team. You may not feed at any other point than Ashton or what was the old Bonnievale team support zone, and that will be clearly marked on the route when you get there. If the vehicle has to stop for any other reason, it must be for an emergency of some kind, or because there's been a serious mechanical with the team, or to sweep one of the riders. And that's to avoid people stopping willy-nilly along the side of the road, and we have people all over the place, which is what we want to avoid. The important thing when you leave the team support zone is make sure that you don't unpack your entire car as we would in the past and have a big picnic set up. Make sure that everything is readily available in the car so that by the time the team is ready to roll out onto the second half of the route, that the team vehicle can slot in behind them and head out on the route immediately with them. So important, no gazebos. This is going to be a very tightly controlled, quick in and out of the team support zone at Ashton. There are no spectators allowed, so please keep the team vehicle simply with the driver and then available to put team members that are unable to finish or have mechanicals and have to board the team vehicle. No support vehicle is allowed to feed their team anywhere else along the route other than the Bonnievale team support zone, which we have spoken about and we will show you shortly. Should a team support vehicle need to support their team outside of the team support zones due to mechanical issues or rider withdrawing from the race, they may do so by pulling as far off the road as possible and only in a place that is safe to do so. Please make sure that you do that. And I'm going to ask the team riders, if you're stopping with your rider who has a flat tire or a mechanical, please pull off the road. Take your bikes, move off the road and stay out of the way of the teams and cars that are coming through behind you. That's very important. Okay, I must stop talking. We'll be here all night. Mike, Ashton team support zone, over to you.
So we've covered quite a bit of the slide already in our chat so far. The only point that I'd like to draw your attention to is the maximum amount of space that we'd like it to take up within these zones that you've been allocated is 15 meters. So please, I mean, you wouldn't want to have a big setup anyway, as Dave says, otherwise it will affect your time when you're leaving, following your team. And then, of course, when you leave the zone, you'll be crossing the railway line at the other end and turning left towards Robertson.
Okay. Now, getting from Ashton through to Swellendam. As we've said, the team vehicle is going to be following you. The Ashton Team Support Zone is one directional traffic only. Please remember that and keep a keen eye open as you're going through looking for your card. From this point on, as we've said, the team support vehicle will be following. You'll be turning out of this team support zone, left onto the R60 in the direction of Robertson, left at the Robertson Circle towards Bonnievale, and then the marshals will turn both the teams and the team vehicles over the Rooibrug, which is just after Van Leuven and Wine Farm. The second team support zone, for those people that have ridden before, is the old Bonnievale. In this area, now by the time the teams get there, and because of the format we're implementing, there will be more than enough room for anybody to secure a team space along that 2 kilometer stretch of road. Now remember, you're following your team into the zone. Find an area that's clear, pull over to the left-hand side and feed. There's no need for the team vehicle to go rushing ahead to go and set up a water point. Simply move in behind your riders where they find a spot, you pull in behind them and you'll feed there. Before reaching Bonnievale, you'll turn right onto, say, at the end of this team support zone, you'll turn right onto the what's known as the R317 towards Stormsvlei. And you'll, I beg your pardon, we've just gone over the Rooibrug. My apologies. The second team support is in Bonnievale. The Bonnievale is one directional. At the end of the team support zone, you'll turn right, heading towards the N2. Shortly after that right turn, there's a left turn, which heads you towards Drew. And then you'll take another left turn over the low-level bridge at Drew to where the final water station is at Drew. Past that water station, you'll head off and then turn right onto the R60 towards Swellendam. These maps, as we say, are available on the website, and this entire briefing is available, has been emailed to riders, and will be available on this YouTube Live for viewing afterwards. Mike.
And then the only material difference between Ashton and Bonnievale this year is that in Bonnievale we won't be cordoning off any zones or any spaces for teams. There'll be ample space for everybody and it will be cleared. So you can basically choose your own space and stop there with your vehicle.
And remember, as we've said, this is not a neutral zone. Your time keeps running. And the reason we've done that is to minimize the amount of time that you spend where we could potentially have build up of people. You literally want to stop, refill your water bottles, get some food into your back pocket, and get back on the road and get going. Your time is running. Okay. General team support zone rules. You must have that accreditation on your vehicle, top of the windscreen, and it must be very clearly visible. You must display your vehicle's accreditation, both back and front windscreen. Caution of the designated zones, as cyclists may be moving on the road at the same time. So when you're pulling out from your parking area, both in the team support zones and at any point that you are stopping along the route, drivers, you need to make very, very carefully, take great care, I beg your pardon, when you pull out onto that road to make sure that there are no cyclists coming up from behind you or teams that are moving through on the route. This is very important. Follow the traffic and speed rules between the team support zones. Again, no supporters or spectators to follow the teams or feed along the route at any point. This will jeopardize our permissions in future. There will be limited toilet facilities within the team support zones. Please keep the area clean and leave it the way you found it. We will make sure it's clean before you get there. We expect the teams to please not litter and leave it exactly as they found it. Mike, over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Right, so this is the slide that shows you the approach towards the finish line. So once the riders turn left onto Van Eerden at the 1 kilometer to go, the support drivers will please continue straight on the R60 towards Voortrekker Road and turn left onto Voortrekker Road, where you will then be asked to come through to the showgrounds as you finish, and there will be something there for you to collect. Just a point of note there that the showgrounds is not open for any gathering, so no other riders will be expected to go through to the showgrounds. Once you have crossed the finish line, you will be dispersing from there.
So
team vehicles, sorry Dave.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, it's just that the team vehicles will not be allowed to pick up any riders close to that finish line once they have crossed the line.
So I think the important point here is you need to make a plan and a place to meet your riders. Now, the exciting news is we said there wouldn't be any after event gathering. There'll be no food offering, and you're going to be dispersing home to go and tell the war stories around a cold beer at your B&Bs and guest houses. Well, we're very excited to say that Food Lovers Market, who've been a long-standing supporter of the event, have come to the party. And what we're going to be doing together with Food Lovers Market is giving you a braai pack, which you will be able to collect. And that's why your team vehicle will leave you as you start that nasty little hill up to the finish line. The team vehicle will continue, as Mike has said, to the showgrounds, where they will enter through the main gate. They will flow through, and they will be collecting a food hamper from the grounds, and we'll talk to that shortly. Mike's just going to take you through the rule infringement, but it's great to have Food Lovers Market back on board with us.
Yes, thanks, Dave. And then, as always, there are some rules that we need to abide by. The event officials and marshals on motorbikes will be monitoring cyclists and teams, as well as team support vehicles. They will call any offences that they pick up to the VOC, and all offences will be logged. If a complaint has been logged against a support vehicle, the team captain or the team support driver must please report to the VOC post-race, obviously to attend to this. And it may affect the teams standing in the race. Teams may be disqualified if support vehicles break these rules.
Sorry, Mike, the next slide is yours. It's taking a little time to load.
And then, of course, cyclists, when you are withdrawing from the race at either Ashton or Bonnievale at the team support zones, must be transported to the finish by their own team support vehicle. Please call the VOC to just log that withdrawal with them so that we know that you are safe and not still lost on the route somewhere. And then we have our cutoffs. This year, obviously, as a result of the new format with the fastest leaving first and the slowest last, our cutoffs have been revised accordingly. So it's 12 o'clock at the Opta Trudeau refreshment station. Ashton team support zone will be at 10 to 2. Bonnievale team support zone at 3:30. Drew refreshment station at 4:30. And then the finish line cutoff will be at 6 o'clock in the evening this year.
Okay, Mike.
Our sweep operation, cyclists unable to complete the race on the first half, please report it into the VOC. A sweep vehicle will be dispatched to transport you back to the Swellendam showgrounds. Just please note that this could take a while. You may be required to wait quite a period of time for the sweep vehicle to reach you. Cyclists unable to continue the race from the Ashton, the first team support zone from Ashton, you need to please board your own team vehicles. Cyclists who are cut off will be directed to either the sweep vehicles provided or their own support vehicles. And then cyclists may not continue to cycle the route after those respective cutoffs have been implemented.
We will get to the next slide, I promise. There we go. Mike, that's yours.
Then, of course, mechanical support is provided, especially on the first half of the route. There will be mechanics on the first half, which will be able to attend to basic mechanical assistance for cyclists who are not supported by team vehicles. Please make sure that you have enough of your own mechanical spares, though, just to make sure that you're self-sufficient and able to make repairs effectively if you are not being assisted by anyone.
As I say, as I've said for many years at race briefings for the double century, this is not the Tour de France, and there isn't going to be a yellow Mavic vehicle neutral service ready to jump to your needs when you do have an issue. So please make sure you do have the goodies with you. And I think another important thing for this year is, I think this should be the year of the Charles Milner Medal. We want to get everybody home together. This is not about recording the fastest possible time. This is about getting out with a group of mates and having a ride around an absolutely fantastic 202 kilometer route. It's pristine, it's beautiful. The jacarandas are out in blossom, and the canners along the Robertson wine route. So really enjoy it, and let's get all of your teammates home and get one of those very prized Charles Milner medals for bringing all 10 riders home. Okay, Mike.
And then, of course, something very important, that number to call in any emergency, 087 820 5605.
That number will be...
Yeah. You go, Dave.
Sorry, Mike. That number is on everybody's race number and will be contained in this presentation. So please make sure that you are aware of it and that you give it to the driver of your vehicle as well. Mike.
Yes. And then our first riders are expected across the finish line at approximately 10:15, and the last rider expected by 1800 hours. The finish line is still, as you know, on the same spot in Van Eden Street. There will be an action photo opportunity once you've crossed the finish line. That photo wall will be there, and this will obviously be done in a socially distant and COVID responsible way. You will also receive your finisher medal at this point once you've crossed the finish line.
Right. So let's talk about the Charles Milner Medal. And I think this is very important. I do believe that this is the year, as I've said, of embracing the spirit of the event, which is, my apologies for that, is about getting out and enjoying the beauty that we have to offer here in the Western Cape. So to qualify, teams must start and finish with all 10 riders. The last rider must finish within 10 minutes of the cycling team's first cyclist crossing the line. Okay, so again, try and keep it together. The last 17 Ks is a particularly tough 17 Ks. Make sure you're getting around the riders that are battling and getting them across the finish line. The Charles Milner medals will be available up after the finish line. You'll collect your race medal first, and then after your race medal, you will collect your Charles Milner. If all 10 riders are there, you need to present all 10 riders at the area that the Charles Milner medals are being handed out. They will be counted to make sure that you're 10, and then the medals will be presented to you. We're not doing a verification. We don't want to have anything down on the fields itself. And there will also be, as Mike has mentioned, action photo will be taking some pictures. You will then head off and go and meet at a prearranged point your team vehicle, which by this stage would have been down to the showgrounds and would have collected the food hamper from Food Lovers Market. And as I say, we're really excited about this. So plan this. Plan to have a nice braai afterwards at your guest house, your B&B, wherever it is you're staying. There will be some braai meat. There is an halal option available, and there's an email gone out to the teams today to let us know. Braai sauce, bread rolls, chips, salads, a salad offering with some salad dressing, some snacks and nuts for the team to enjoy. And a big shout out to Food Lovers for them coming to the party on this one. It was something that we weren't expecting, and it'll add a nice opportunity for you to sit down around a fire at night and share the war stories. And for those teams finishing late, and I'll probably be one of them, it's we'll get in just in time for the braai fire to start. Okay, important points to remember. So these are the things that we'd like you to take away most importantly from this presentation we've given you. One, please wear a mask, and that includes when you've finished. When you're going over to collect your Charles Milner medals, please make sure that there are staff that you'll be dealing with. If you could put a mask on while you're dealing with them. There's a reverse start order, fastest teams first, as we've mentioned. The team vehicles will be following from Ashton. This is a special concession we've been given by the traffic department, and we're asking drivers of those team vehicles to exercise extreme caution. Remember, there are cyclists out on the road. You need to be careful. Bonnievale is not a neutral zone. Remember that. Your time is going to keep ticking in Bonnievale. And there's no post-race hospitality down at the showgrounds, so there won't be a beer tent. To make sure you stock up before you head out. The bottle stores are closed on Saturday in Swellendam. Remember this. So those are the key takeouts, and any other information you'll be able to pick up on our website. So I'm going to leave you before I hand over to Mike to say a final farewell, to wish you all good luck, be safe, and we look forward to seeing you in Swellendam. And folks, it's been a real hard journey for the guys in the office, to Mike and his team, to the Board of Trustees, and to the guys at PPA. What I should have mentioned was that this is not an effort that is only the Cycle Tour Trust team. This is a joint effort between the entire crew at Pedal Power Association, and the team at the Cycle Tour Trust. We're working together on this one to make sure we're able to give you the event. And a huge shout out to the team at PPA and the Cycle Tour Trust offices for the huge amount of work that's gone into getting this one across the line. Mike, I'll hand over to you for a final farewell.
Thanks very much, Dave. I know there's been a couple of questions that have come up on the broadcast as we've been doing it. I'm going to try and get Dave to answer a couple of them. One is that what is the gap between the vehicle and the team going to be once the vehicle is following that team? Do you know what that gap should be?
So, Mike, yeah, I think it's there's not a fixed distance in terms of meters. You need to follow at a safe distance. So I would fall 100 meters back from your team and make sure you're staying off the back of the team. Remember, and I stress this importantly, we're expecting the teams to have stretched out significantly by the time they get to Ashton. So unlike the current scenario where the entire event concertinas, we believe there'll be sufficient space on the road for the team vehicles to follow 50 to 100 meters behind the team. That's the first thing. The second thing is, don't panic if your team does get mixed up with another team and ends up 200, 300, 400 meters up the road. As long as you're behind them, if one of them have a mechanical, you will still catch up to them and be able to assist. So don't get into a complete panic and wanting to overtake and get back in behind your team. Follow at a safe distance and make sure, as I've said, that you keep your eyes on the road behind you for teams that may be coming up behind you as well, and move off to the left-hand side. Just a quick one, Mike, on that. When you pull off the road and you're pulling back onto the road, the big mistake that team vehicles tend to make is they pull on quickly and they drag a whole lot of gravel onto the road, which causes havoc with the riders behind. So if you're pulling back onto the road from a safe spot at some point, make sure you do so carefully. Thanks, Mike.
And then the other question is, does a buff count as a mask on the race day?
Yes, it does. In terms of the current legislation, I'm going to ask Mike if he has any additional information, but our understanding is that a face covering, so making sure that you have a buff on over your face, would be sufficient, but make sure you keep it on over your face throughout the process of screening and up to the start line.
And then,
yes, Mike, if I may add to that, it is any cloth covering that is covering the nose and the mouth.
And then, we're not going to get to all the questions, but a couple of others are coming through. Just saying the amount of people that are allowed in the support crew, Dave, can you give some indication as how many people you're allowed to have in your support crew and vehicle?
Again, we'd like to keep this to minimum. Remember, the event is not allowed to have spectators. I would say you need to aim for one, but if you need to have a second person in that vehicle, then that would be permissible. We haven't dictated it. We're asking people to be responsible. Remember, spectators are not allowed. Support crew are. Do you need 6 or 7 support crew? No, you don't. You need somebody to drive the vehicle and be able to follow you, and possibly have an additional person to be eyes on the road as well. But I would keep it to no more than 2.
Yeah, I know the team have been answering a lot of the questions that you guys have been putting up on Facebook around when the seating is going to happen. And one of the questions that maybe, Dave, you want to just expand on is, how many team members must you have across the line to be an official finisher?
You can't see my hand up. 5.
Okay.
To qualify for an official team finish, you need 5 riders across the line. To qualify for Charles Milner, you need all 10, as we've mentioned. If your team finishes with less than 5 riders, the individual rider is credited with a finish time, but not a team position. So you will still be given a finish time and a credit for having finished a double century.
Okay, great. So for all of you that have been watching this, obviously, please just share some of the details as Dave has explained. All of the rules have been emailed to all of the participants. They're also available on the website. And I suppose the most important thing now, I'm going to ask you, Mike, a final question. For you as the race director, tell us about the next sort of 10 days or so building up to it. What's your sort of game plan as you head towards the actual start line?
Yes, it is the finished state, so to speak. We've got just a couple of loose ends to tie up. The team logistics team does go up, and we move up to Swellendam next week, in the middle of next week, where all our equipment and ourselves go up there, and we start setting up the venue and engaging with the town. And yeah, it's going to be a very busy time, very exciting.
Well, we're just not this weekend, but the following weekend. We look forward to seeing all of you at the Pedal Power Association Double Century. I know that myself and Dave will be participating in the event. I'm going to just try and finish this thing. It's a tough event for those of you that have done it before. You know how tough it is, but a big thank you to the Cape Town Cycle to Trust and Mike and the team for putting on an amazing race at a time where it is probably the most challenging time to put on a race. You can ask some other questions if you're watching this broadcast as a recording. Please feel free to ask some questions below, and we'll try and get back to as much as we can on our social media if there's anything urgent. But of course, you can also contact our office as well if you need to know anything else. But otherwise, we'll see you guys and all the team members on the 21st of November in Swellendam, and it's bye for now.
Thanks, Mike.